Okay, good morning. We had no music this morning. I don't know where our music went.
I heard the music.
You did hear the music?
Yeah.
Then my speakers are completely gone. This is good news because computers are so cheap. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Julia. And hello, Allison. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you? Are we still supposed to be hearing music? Because I still hear it.
I still hear music.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on just a second. Let's see if we can shut off the music.
I didn't know if that was normal.
How's that?
That's perfect.
There we
Is
go.
that better?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. I don't mind the music, but
I mean, it's lovely, but
yeah. But I think that's a little distracting when we're trying to talk. Hey, Julie, would you like to introduce our guest today?
I would love to. We invited Allison on today. Allison is my cousin, and she is a woman of excellence in so many categories. And we've been kind of changing our focus to encouraging moms to do whatever they feel like the Lord is leading them to do with raising their kids, with education, with all the things, with teaching them how to work. Allison works from home, and she's a very successful working mom. She has homeschooled her five kids through being a single mom. She has she's married now and a successful working mom. She has just overcome pretty much every objection that we ever hear from any of the moms that are feeling discouraged about either pulling their kids out of public schools or just taking the bull by the horns. And Allison has done all that and very successfully. And I love her and I appreciate her. And she is one of the most encouraging people I know. So with all that said, let me introduce to you Allison Wanjon. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So I didn't mean to tell your whole story.
No, you're fine.
but let's start at the beginning. What made you decide in the first place to homeschool?
There were a few different factors. When I first started homeschooling, my oldest, he was actually about to graduate high school now. He was in third grade and wasn't being challenged at all. He had already skipped a grade. He was just really kind of sent to help the kids who needed help, And I thought, well, it's interesting that, he can't go ahead, even though he's clearly a little bit higher level than some of the kids in his class. I just didn't know why he was not being challenged in any way. And so that was one of the factors. Another factor was I was actually a teacher. I have a degree in music education, and I was a music teacher. And just being in the schools, unfortunately, I got to see how, I guess maybe other people parent. I'm not sure, but I just sat there and thought, I don't know if I want my kids in this environment, and it wasn't the teachers at the time. And I don't know how much it's changed. I know it's changed a lot since I was a teacher. It's been a while. But those were the main factors, was just not being able to push my kid ahead just because they all had to kind of stay at this level, whatever it was. And so I decided that we were going to start homeschooling. So we started homeschooling that next year. And that's really what got me started. Also, as a Christian, I really wanted to be able to instill values that weren't going to be instilled in them in a public school setting. So I wanted to make sure that every day they were getting doses of Jesus, or Bible verses or things that they weren't getting in a public school setting.
Right. Good.
I love the doses of Jesus.
Yes, absolutely. Here we go.
I'll take a dose of Jesus, please.
Yeah, right. And they're going to still get that at home. And we always do something every evening where we have we just call it our bedtime stuff. And it's where we just grab a Bible, we read a Bible story, and then and it's more like a kid's Bible, but we grab a Bible, read a Bible story, we go through a daily devotional, and we do the Lord's Prayer together and pray together. And that's our every evening thing. So they're getting that, but I want them to get more of it, so more doses.
Yes. More than a smidgen at the end. That's excellent. That's excellent. And so what is there anyone, just to give people some solid information they can take home. What curriculum did you use, and how did you select all that? And also, just to tell them your background as a teacher. You're
Yeah.
a music teacher, and
Yeah.
now you're a music teacher again, but we'll get to that part. That's kind of fun. But
Well, so I forgot your question.
the
Curriculum. Okay. This is my mom brain, right? So I'm sure you guys can relate. So curriculum was kind of a hodgepodge of different things. And that was one of the things I enjoyed about homeschooling, is that I could kind of like just pull from different things, and it was just random. So I did some classical conversation stuff at home where they were doing the memorization work, the subject work, things like that. So they were getting just some basic knowledge, but it was memorization. And as a music teacher, I used a lot of learning by song, because I know that you retain that. I think about the stuff I learned as a kid in music. I still remember those songs, and whether they were educational or not, I remember them. And so I use a lot of learning by song. So they, will do like 50 nifty United States. So all my kids know the 50 United States in alphabetical order, or we've learned the books of the Bible also through song, through classical conversations, the presidents. So they all know the presidents in order, the books of the Bible, Old and New Testament. All of these things are by song. And same with this in general, classical conversations is through song. So you do retain that information.
It was funny, but the other day, my youngest kid just broke out into the seven wonders of the world.
Yeah.
Song. And I thought, wow, that's a blast from the past. Haven't heard that one before. But you're right. I mean, that is one great thing about classical is the songs and the putting all of that to song. And like you just said, and I said, I mean, they remember that forever. It's great.
Well, I even had Kristen, my youngest, she was struggling with geometry at one point, and I had a parent-teacher conference with her teacher, and I said, if you could figure out a way to put that to song, she will remember everything you say. And he was like, how do we do geometry to song?
The theorem for love. That's tough.
You could sing it to her, she will never forget it.
Well,
so
go ahead.
You did classical, and then what were some of the other ones that you added in? Because it's funny, that's how we did it. I mean, at first we did classical for 4 years. And even though I was a teacher, because I was a teacher too, and in science, and we did classical for 4 years. And then after that, once they hit kind of 7th grade, I just started finding things and sticking them together. And okay, you need a humanities course this year, or you need an English course, and I'd just go find something, or I'd make it up. So, and I think, people often say, well, you're a teacher, so, that's why you can do that. But that's not necessarily true though, either. Is it, Allison?
No, not at all. I mean, and especially as a music teacher, it's very different, from being, yes, I still had to take some basic educational courses and things like that. But I think that's just, I think anybody can be a teacher, and it really just depends on your passion about what you want your kids to learn, and that's really what it came down to for me is, what do I really want my kids to learn? Geometry is great, but are they really going to use that if they don't do finances or whatever? They're probably not. And so I care more about, and yes, I want them to take all these basic courses, but their education to me is most importantly is I want them to be well-rounded, productive citizens, who love Jesus. And that's my main goal, and who are going to stand up for what's right. And that's another thing, is just always teaching them to question and to do their own research, and to not fall, in with the crowd. And it's okay to go against the grain. And those are the kind of things that I'm trying to instill into my children.
So that brings up a good question after listening to you, because so many people about homeschool, and this just bugs me so badly. So many people say, well, if you're not a teacher, you can't really homeschool your kids. And if you're going to homeschool your kids, you have to follow what the state has, and you have to make sure that they're taking all the courses that the state suggests.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I find that asinine, but can you kind of explain, you started down that road about what a well-rounded citizen is.
You can use your graduating senior as a great example of that, because he's awesome too.
Yeah. I'm gonna cry just thinking about him. He's just such a great kid, but he's 17, so he's graduating at 17. He just turned 17 in December. But he's such a great kid. He's owned his own business since he was 10. He started picking up dog poop in our old neighborhood for 4 years. He did that from 10 to 14. We moved out here to the country. We've got some acreage. Everybody has a few acres out here. And he couldn't do that anymore. I mean, no one's going to pay him to pick up dog poop. That could be who knows where. So he had to come up with another idea, because he has that entrepreneurial mindset. I'm super proud of him. He's a hard worker, but he became a car detailer 2 years ago, started doing that at 15. We would drive him. So he bought his own car, and then he pays for his own gas, pays for his own everything. That's one of the things I want them to learn, is that I'm not going to bail you out. You've got to learn how to, be good with your money, be a good steward of what you've been given. And so the money that he saved from picking up dog poop, he used to buy a car and to start his own business, his own new business. And we drove him for the first year back and forth to all his details with his car using his gas. And so, anyway, he pays for his own, phone and insurance, everything. I mean, I don't pay for a thing for that kid except for whatever is underneath my roof. So he's just such a cool kid. But anyway, that being said, he's being, in my opinion, a productive member of society, and he has employees that he pays. So he's just a cool kid. He pays taxes too. He's not just doing it under the table. So yeah, he's just a very responsible, he's like an adult, but he's 17. So
yeah. Wow.
And he loves this and encourages, and he's just I don't know, just makes me, I just love seeing him in church, raising his hands, and I don't know, just such a proud mom.
Yeah, and you can plug his
business
if you want to.
Yeah. Well, his business is Jax's Detailing, JAX.
How do people get a hold of him?
Yep. So actually the website has everything, including his prices on it. So jaxsdetailing.com. So it's JAX, no apostrophe in the, .com, but Jax's Detailing, JAXSdetailing.com. And you can find his phone number, you can find his pricing, you can find everything. You can reach him through the website. So
yeah, he's and like you said, he's been doing it. He's on his
he's been doing it for a little over 2 years. So yeah.
So, and he's good. He shows pictures on there. It's really good. So
he's very passionate about it. So he doesn't really have aspirations to go to college. He does want to take some college courses, like business courses. And, as someone who doesn't use their degree, I'm okay with that. I do feel like he's still going to be a very successful person in life.
Absolutely. So. Yeah. I don't even believe that you have to have college to be a success, because I still am in Mary Kay for all these years, and Mary Kay didn't get her college education either. So
yeah,
I'd say being a billionaire is pretty successful in the eyes of almost anyone.
That's true. Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, and I think that's another thing too, that I might point out is another thing that people really complain about when it comes to homeschooling is the fact that, well, how do you get your kids into college? I mean, and why aren't you going to get your kids into college? And it's interesting because, I have 5 kids too. And, the oldest one we didn't homeschool. And the next oldest one we didn't homeschool, but the bottom 3 we did. And then we also homeschooled a family friend from church, her daughter, because she was a single mom. And so we homeschooled her with our kids. But the oldest or the youngest daughter didn't want to go to college. She just didn't want to. She just wanted to take some courses that she found interesting for things, and she does great. I mean, she gets out there and hustles. She finds herself jobs. She's self-sufficient, but she didn't go to college. Then the oldest boy was dead set on going to college, and he wants to be a computer programmer. He's going to graduate next year. And I will say, we didn't have the trouble getting into college that people get concerned about, because he actually took advantage of a program that we had at our technical school in our area. And he took some math courses, higher math courses, and some coding classes at that technical school. And so his grades helped transfer over to college. And he also took he did a concurrent year at a university that we had. And so he got some grades there. And by the time he actually went to apply for a university, he had a transcript other than the one that I had just prepared for him. And even the one that I had just prepared for him actually got him into college. So this, and to be honest, I mean, I've talked to professors, and I've talked to people in who are administrators in college, and they're actually looking for kids who homeschool, because they know that so many of them have been really in some kind of a rigorous program by their parents or whatever, and they have those kinds of values and standards like you have been talking about in your son, able to get a job, able to hold a job, able to do, you know, all these kinds of things. So I think we just need to make sure that we can point that out as another encouragement to parents, because the public school doesn't hold all the keys. You hold all the keys as the parent. So
I think far too often too many parents just go, I'm just going to send my kids off to school, and the school systems are raising their children, but that's really what our job is, you know. And there are ways to do it, like what I've been doing, even as a single parent. You can still work and figure out ways to, I mean, if I had needed to pull weeds and make a living, I would do that. You know, like there's just so many things that you can do. As a music teacher, I was able to teach piano, guitar, voice. I could do those things if I wanted to figure out other ways to stay home with my kids, figure out something you like to do that you're passionate about, and do a course. There's so many things that are available for people to be able to still work at home. I'm a realtor now, so I don't fully work at home. I know Julia said I work at home, but I'm home a lot, but I have to go to showings, and I have to go to closings, and I have to go to inspections and things like that. But it's also nice. Sometimes it's great. But as my kids have gotten older, I've been able to do those things, where when they were younger, I was working pretty much fully from home in an MLM actually. And so there's just different things that you can do. If you want it badly enough, you will make it work for your kids, you know? And I really believe that there's just ways for everyone to do what I'm doing and what I've been doing. And I just, I want that for other people, because it's just wonderful. And as far as homeschooling goes, I see that there's a question, advice do you have for someone who's new to homeschooling? I would just say, give yourself a break, because it doesn't have to be perfect. And I think that's what holds people back from homeschooling, is they're like, oh my gosh, I can't teach. I'm not a teacher. I don't know how to teach my kids this stuff or that stuff. I honestly don't know how to do geometry. When you were talking earlier, Jenny, I was like, I don't even know what that means. So, and I'm successful. So you don't have to know all the things to do this. And one of the things that I've done is I've just found different things here and there. And you can even look on christianbooks.com, Amazon, different places, and you can find just different things for each subject. Another thing I added, we started talking about this earlier, but they did teaching textbooks for math. There's just different random free things online. We did Khan Academy for some things. We did freerice.com, another good resource. And it's just little things I would have them do each day, like, hey, do 50 questions on freerice.com each day. It's really neat. When you make an account, every single time you answer a question correctly, it donates grains of rice to third world countries. And it's a cool little free site that we've just been using for years. So there's a whole bunch of little things. There's YouTube songs that teach you things. There's just so much out there that's free. There's a website that's Teachers Paying Teachers. I get a lot of resources on that for so cheap. So cheap. So there's just a lot of things. So as far as advice goes, I would just say, like, just pick random. You don't try to be like anybody else. Do what you want to do for your kids, what your kids want, what you want your kids to learn, and what you want to instill in them. And pick and choose different random things. When people ask me what curriculum I do, I say I do a hodgepodge of everything, because
Yes.
you just pick and choose from different things. We've done My Father's World. We've done oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it now, of course, but Abeka. So we've done all kinds of different programs over the years, and it's just, and each kid, some kids didn't like Abeka and some did great at it. So you just have to kind of tailor it to each kid too, and their personality. So
you've said a couple of things that I really want to latch on to here. Your kids are not my kids, are not Julia's kids, right?
Right.
And so the big problem with public school is you take a whole bunch of kids and you squeeze them into one little mold, right? And so
they all have to be at the same level. Nobody can go ahead or stay behind. I mean, it really, if someone's behind, everyone's behind.
Yes.
Right. Exactly.
And that's exactly correct. Or if somebody's acting up in class, then it detracts from, what the other kids are doing and from the amount of time that they can be used.
Right.
So I think the one of the most important things I just want to tease out of what you said was kids are all different. And the beauty of homeschooling is that you can tailor to each kid what each kid wants to do. And I'm going to say this again, homeschooling doesn't have to look like public schooling.
Not at all.
And I'm going to say this again, and I'm going to add this. Your success isn't dependent upon somebody's model of what success for homeschooling is, or for we in 7th grade had all of the kids tested because I just wanted to see kind of where they were. It really didn't matter because at least 2 of my kids couldn't test to save their lives. They overthink every question. They're always 15 steps ahead of the question. They just can't take tests. I mean, they can't. So it really didn't matter. And I was talking to somebody one time who was saying, well, I just don't, I don't know how to homeschool. I don't know how to do this because, I just am not a teacher. And I want my kids to be successful. Ooh, what's success? My youngest child literally, and I'm not joking or being facetious when I say this, skipped middle school. And he just went on to high school. He just didn't do middle school. Nothing that I would ask Julia. Nothing that I would prescribe for that child would get done. I would go to all kinds of links to have curriculum to try to find something he would like. He just flat wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it. So it ended up that in 11th grade, what I consider to be 11th grade, I found a homeschool co-op for him. So long as it wasn't me telling him to do something, he would do it. And he'd do a pretty good job.
And sometimes that's how it is.
Yeah. So his homeschool co-op did a really great job. And then that was in junior year. And then in senior year, he took concurrent classes at a private Christian college. So, and he managed to graduate with a 2-point grade point average. So, or I'm sorry, a 3-point. What am I thinking? Poor kid. He's like, Mom, I really worked hard. He has a little over a B average. So I think a 2.2. 3.2. 3.2. So it doesn't really matter. If your kid just says, I'm not going to do anything, okay. The world isn't over. Something else is going to happen, but we've got to get out of the mindset that schooling at home is public school at home.
Well, I also want to point out at this point, the laws in Oklahoma are really good at allowing people to do just that right now. They are trying their best to mess with our wonderful choices that we have in Oklahoma. And they're calling it school choice, but it's actually anti-school choice. So but at this point, at right now, parents can teach their kids at home very well. And
Most states, I think we're the only state that even is, we can kind of do our own thing. I mean, that's
right,
a huge blessing. Yeah.
absolutely. And you know, both of you have homeschooled your kids, and both of you have great kids. I do know that, and I know a bunch of people that have homeschooled that they have wonderful, wonderful, very smart and successful grown children now. So there's, the whole the idea that homeschool children are lacking in some way is just not the truth.
Well, and I think there's a stigma because
Right.
when I was growing up and the kids were homeschooled, and probably you all too, like those kids, were weird or,
Yeah.
antisocial and all of that. And it's just not the case now. There are billions of co-ops. There's graduations, there's proms. Like my son already went to like 3 proms this year. I'm like, dude, you are so popular. Like you can be still super, super well-rounded and super social, get them in church. They've got kids in the neighborhood. They've got sports. They've got activities. They've got co-ops. They are not going to be the weird antisocial kids that people assume that they're going to be if they're homeschooled. And so
Hiding behind mama's skirt.
yeah. And I was going to say too, when you were talking, Jenny, earlier about the public school day compared to a homeschool day, it also is very different because in a public school setting, you also have like, you're always getting in a line and you're taking up time to go to the bathroom or go get a drink of water and go to the other things, which I think are important, like art and music and things like that. But in a homeschool setting, like you might be doing homeschool for an hour and a half, 2 hours in a day and be way ahead of where you would have been in a public school. So you can actually get ahead and homeschooling as well. And one of the reasons I really started too, as I mentioned earlier with my son not being challenged, one of the things I loved with homeschooling him, which I say loved because he's about to graduate, but I'm still homeschooling my other kids, is like when you're talking about tailoring, he was at like an 11th grade reading level when he was like in 6th grade, but then like he was in, a 7th grade math, and then maybe he was in like a 3rd grade science. I don't know. But the point is, it can all be tailored specifically to him and what his needs are. And he doesn't have to be held back or pushed or, it's just, this is where you're at and we're going to work on it until you get it. And what's great is we've got time because you don't have all the other fluff in like a public school that you would have. So we've got this time in this day to do this. So,
and that is an excellent point.
Yeah. And as I've gotten older, my kids have gotten older. I'm not getting older. My kids are. As my kids have gotten older too, they've kind of learned. So on Sunday night, I write out their lesson plan and, they know what to do if they need me. If I'm not here, I may not be here because of working, but if I am here, I can help them. My husband works at home too. He's a graphic designer. If they need help, he's here. If they need me, then they'll wait for me to get home, So it's been nice as I'm working now more outside of the home, they know what to do, but if they need me, they can just be like, okay, I'll set this aside and I'll ask mom when she gets home, that kind of thing. So it's been really great. But I was going to mention, and I know Julia had talked about this before, but the last 2 years, my church actually started a 2-day homeschool hybrid school. And it had a 4-day option for, kids who maybe had parents that were working like 8 to 5 type jobs Monday through Friday. And so it was a Monday through Thursday school for those people who chose to do that. But it was a homeschool hybrid option, which was really great because I know that the views are lining up with what I would want to be teaching my children at home. But it gave them an option to go to school 2 days, but it was like a partnership between the parents and the teachers, parents and the school in general. So anyways, they've loved that because it's kind of like the school feel, but still being homeschooled. The school did take care of the curriculum those years. And then this coming year, they're actually going to a full 4-day private school. So they really have a heart for, just kids in general who are in the education system that is so broken. And so they're trying to help parents who maybe work full time, get them into something that's affordable, but also a better option if they can't homeschool. But I do I do plan to continue homeschooling. So they probably won't go to the 4-day option, even though I love the school and I'm proud of what they're doing there. I will probably still, continue to homeschool. I like the flexibility. So
there's something else I wanted to talk about with you.
Sure.
You were a single mom
Yeah.
for a number of years,
Yeah.
and yet you still managed to homeschool your children. One of the, as Julia had said earlier, one of the biggest complaints we get about, when we'll tell parents, look, you can homeschool. Well, I can't because I'm a single parent. I can't do this myself. Well, we've given parents, options and options and options and options. And yet we still have this, crying about, if I'm a single parent, I can't homeschool. Can you be a little more specific about what you did to be able to maintain your kids in your homeschool when it was just you providing?
Yeah. And it really was just truly me providing 100% too.
Wow.
But it was, I'm really blessed. I had joined a multi-level marketing company, and I just worked my booty off really with that, and just I really believed in it. And I think you do have to believe in what you're doing, obviously. And I really believed in like the products. They were health products, and I'm really big on like natural health and nutraceuticals rather than pharmaceuticals. So it was really easy for me to kind of jump on board something like that. So I was very blessed to grow a really great organization. And that is actually what got me through. But I know that not everybody can do that. And I know takes a lot of time to build something like that. But that's why I mentioned things. I also taught voice lessons, piano lessons, guitar lessons. So I did those things because I could work that around my schedule, and I could plan that each week. Like, okay, I'm going to be home during this time. So here are my lesson times available. And like I said, I didn't pull weeds, but I would have done that if I needed to. So there's all kinds of little things that you can do. Hey, I'm doing a laundry service. I'm house cleaning. There's so many things that you can do that you will make more money per hour doing on your own, working for yourself, than if you were to go sit at a desk from 8 to 5, make $100 a day. You can make $100 in a couple hours cleaning a house, or you know what I'm saying? And so I did those things that you can do. Just like my son, car detailing, he's realized I can make, $60 in an hour and still pay employees while he's there helping work as well, rather than if I were to go make $9 an hour at McDonald's or whatever, and I'm not knocking those types of jobs, but it's just one of those like kind of working smarter, not harder type of thinking, and so there's lots of things you can do. You just have to get creative. Maybe you don't have a skill of teaching, of playing an instrument or something like that, but maybe you are good at photography and you can teach a photography class. I mean, there's just so many things. And, I love helping moms brainstorm what they can do. The only thing, it's kind of like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force them to drink. I have helped many, many moms come up with ideas, but they don't always go and do those things,
Yes. And that's kind of another problem that we have. So one other question that so I just alluded to the fact that my homeschooling journey was not easy, particularly with the littlest one, and the littlest one who's almost 7 feet tall. But yeah. So how do you slog through when what you're doing isn't working? You're not seeing any results. You feel like banging your head against the wall. Is it time to just throw up your hands and quit? Or do you just stick it out and put your head down and make it work however it works?
That, because it is just a one day at a time thing. I probably feel like what you just said on a weekly, basis. I feel like that a lot, but I know that it's worth it. It's kind of like, for me anyway, being pregnant. I hated being pregnant. It was the worst thing ever, but I did it 5 times because the outcome was so great, so you have that baby and you're like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing in the world. And so and being a parent is hard too. It's so hard, but at the end of the day, it's going to be super rewarding. And I try to remind myself all the time, especially with my job now, because I do work a lot and I love what I do because I truly love people and I really want them to have good representation. And I want to, I'm an honest person, and I know that people know that about me, so I really love what I do, but I also don't want to neglect my kids. And I know that they're only this age one time, and so I try to always bring that to the front of my mind. Like the last couple of days we've spent outside. We finally opened up our pool yesterday, so we've been swimming, and then been playing Foursquare and catch, and just the things that we haven't been able to do with poopy weather. So I'm just trying to always remember, like, I need to, and that's what a homeschooling day could even look like. It could be, hey, I'm going to teach you how to play catch today, or hey, we're gonna go outside and find leaves and we're going to press them. And, I'm just, it's also, you were a science teacher, so you probably know that better than I do. But I just remember doing things like that in school, and those were fun things. And you can make learning super fun. It doesn't have to be regimented. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't even have to go buy a curriculum. You literally can look cool things up online and then just kind of make it your own,
So I have a question about your church school, your co-op. Is it all parent led, or is it some teachers and some parents, or
it's all teachers? And I don't believe that every single teacher that was here the past 2 years were certified, but I believe this next year they will be, with the 4-day private. And it's called Lakeview Christian Academy, in case anyone's curious. It's at Lakeview Church at Seward and Sooner, right off I-35 in Seward. But it's a great church and also a great just program in general. So it isn't parent led at all, but parents do come and help with, certain days and things like that. But I've come a couple times and helped with like some skits lately. They have their end of year program on Saturday. So I've been trying to help with some things that they asked me to help with. But
awesome. And so how many students can your church handle?
I think we had about 80 this year from pre-K to 10th grade. And I think they're going back down to 8th grade for next year. But yeah.
Well, and I did want to point out something too, because Allison, you said, certified teachers. Guess what? It really doesn't matter. Again, that's another,
misconception. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And it's a construct of the government is what, all of that kind of stuff is. And I reject, all of the government constructs about what I ought to be doing in my private life.
Yeah.
And the one particularly is, I actually was a certified teacher.
Yeah.
I was a certified teacher when I taught in public school, and I went back and got alternatively certified. And, all of that was nonsense. I mean, if you really want to, I think the one class that I did get something out of when I was going through my alternative certification was a course on designing testing. And of course, they don't do any of that anymore, but it taught me how to design testing. And so every time because I taught at the co-op, I taught science at the co-op, and every time I would give a test, I'd have pretty great outcomes on my test, because it was not just short answer, or it was not just multiple choice, or it was not, I learned how to do all these, how to compile a test of different types of questions that kids may or may not know how to answer. And so or feel comfortable answering. But that was pretty much it. But something to go back on about what you said that is huge to me, and I don't think we spend enough time talking about it. You mentioned art and music, and you're a music teacher. Mm-hmm. And, in public school, we just keep shoving art out and shoving music out and shoving art out, because we have to take more tests, to make sure that we aren't reading on grade level.
Right.
Why do you suspect that's happening? And why is it so important to make sure that kids understand or have access to, art and music, things like art and music?
Well, those things are outlets for people too. So not only do they find, because so many children, that's what they're good at, and so that's going to help their confidence levels. Gosh, if I didn't love music growing up, I don't know that I would have known what to even major in college, because I was like, I don't even know what to do. I like music, I'll just do that, and of course I'm a realtor, so obviously didn't stick forever, but I love that I have those skills. I play the piano at my church now. And, they just asked me, can you play the piano? And I thought, actually, yeah, I can. So I sit and do that every week, couple times a week. So I love that there's that skill there where someone asks me to do something, I can say, sure, I can do that. So I've got my kids in lessons as well. So, of course, I've forgotten what your original question was, but
well, one of the things that we've lost is the concept of
yes.
beauty.
Yes.
I mean, we don't care about beauty. It's all very regimented. And when this is what Marxists want, they want to suck all the beauty out of everything because beauty is what points to Jesus Christ and
Yes.
God. And so, because God is the author and creator of all things, and if you just look out your window on any given day, you'll see a beautiful sunset, or you'll see beautiful flowers, or you'll see beautiful something. Without that access for our souls to have and channel beauty and understand beauty, I really do believe it blocks our desire to find God. And I do believe that's one of the major reasons atheism is skyrocketing today.
Yeah.
Is we've shoved all of that out. We don't want anything that's beautiful that we can stop and think about and have good thoughts about and feel good feelings about. We want to scream at other people. We want to talk about how this is bad and that's bad and this is racist and that's awful. And we've lost the concept of beauty. And for just any kid, that was the one thing I loved about classical conversations, to be honest, is that how they would pull in music and art, and really they talk about an artist. Well, what was the art? That's another thing. When you go back and you realize some of the lives that these artists and musicians have, take Beethoven.
Yeah. Right.
Take Beethoven. The man was deaf and still wrote the most beautiful music. How does that happen? So I love the fact that you're a music teacher, and I love the fact that you mentioned that you're bringing art and music in. To me, that's one thing that we have to bring that back. And parents have to understand what, especially Christian parents, if you're not giving your kids beautiful things to think about and comprehend and understand and consider, there's a gateway to God that's getting blocked there, and that channel needs to be open. So, that's one great thing about private school. That's one great thing about homeschooling, is getting the kids out of that institutionalized black and white gritty setting into some place where they can understand love and beauty.
Well, even Philippians 4:8 tells us to think about those things.
That's correct.
Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, educationally, every single way, socially. As a matter of fact, the social justice, quote unquote, that they're trying to force on our kids is actually the absence of social culture, because 100%. Culture by nature comes from your family. That's what culture is. It's traditions and beauty and things like that passed down from generation to generation. And those things are more important than some of the stuff that they're actually removing that. They're saying there is no culture. Your family doesn't matter. We do what the government says, not what your family holds dear in traditions. So I love the fact that, and you said all of your kids are doing music, are in music.
Yeah, except for the 4-year-old. He will, but he's not yet. But the other four kids are piano, and Harley has been doing guitar and ukulele as well. So she's and they all sing, and they just had our piano recital on Sunday, and they all played a worship song and sang with it. Oh my gosh, it was so cute.
I should have made it up for that one.
I know. I should have told you about it.
I was out of town. Cool.
That's awesome. So if you had anything that you really feel like you can encourage parents to homeschool? I mean,
and churches to church school.
for sure.
Also, all of those things.
Well, I definitely think churches should be opening their doors, especially with the educational system the way it is. I mean, it's pretty heartbreaking.
We need to rescue those kids.
100%. Yeah. And I just, and as a former teacher, and I know you probably feel the same way, Jenny, my heart breaks for the teachers too, but,
Right.
and it's like this stuff has just been slowly infiltrating our schools. And so now it's just gotten to the point where it's normal. And, and just even in like a university setting, kids are afraid to answer in a certain way because they're afraid they're going to get a bad grade if they're a Christian. Or, I mean, there's just story after story I hear from, kids in our church or, whoever, just other kids I know. And I just think it's so sad that you can't speak your beliefs now, because if you're a Christian, then, you're wrong, or you're a bigot, or all of these things. So anyways, I don't even know. I'm just going off on tangents again. That's what I do.
So, we do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, it was a squirrel. But definitely I would say to other moms, and again, I don't remember your question, but I just wanted to say this anyways. Terrible. I just forget questions all the time because of my tangents. But I would just say, if you're considering doing some kind of homeschooling or church schooling, I think that you should look into it, figure it out. There are scholarships available. There are other ways that you can make some income that might even free up your time, but you might have, you might make more income in a smaller amount of time, but then have time to be with your kids or to homeschool your kids. Or if you have older children, you can figure things out with being at home with them with them at home. If you can't be there, and still giving them, here's the stuff I want you to do today school wise. And when I get home, we can kind of go over it together. So there's just so many different things that you can do that you can make work. So
let me ask you this question. Can the government empower you to parent your kids?
Yeah, actually, they empower me because I don't want them to. Sorry, but you know where I'm getting at. That's the reason. I mean, really, it's because I don't trust the government, obviously. And I don't want them to teach my children, and the things that they are laying out in our school systems, I don't agree with. And I don't want my kids to, even if it's just like a little question here and there, and that's how they do it. They just put these little things in that are totally opposite of our faith and of what our country was founded on. But they're sticking all these little things in like a little sneaky devil and getting it in our kids' minds. And that's really what's happening. And the kids don't get it because they don't see, and sometimes the parents don't get it either. They don't see those little tiny things that are just being, snuck in, but that's what's getting into the kids' brains. And that's what's making them think differently than they, instead of thinking for themselves, they're going, oh, well, I learned this in school, but even though maybe it's a Marxist idea or something, and that's what's happening.
Yeah.
So here's another good question that I've got for you. I just thought I had a great question. Isn't that great? Wow. My questions are all good, I guess. Anyway, how do you prevent internet influence from creeping in? Because that's another thing that we traditionally get bashed with constantly is, okay, so you don't like pornographic books in high school or in, elementary schools. But the internet's full of this stuff. Your kids are already seeing it. How do you keep the internet influence away from your children?
Well, I pay for Covenant Eyes. So there's a bunch of different programs. I'm sure there's more than just that one, but Covenant Eyes is a program that you can put on your computer, on your kids' devices, and it monitors and filters and shows you all the things that they're looking at.
Awesome. How long have you been doing that?
I actually just started, I don't know, not even a year ago. So
okay,
a few months or 6 months, maybe something like that. And really it's just because my 17-year-old, I've never had issues with, he's really just told me everything. So even if he did make a mistake, he has come and told me everything, which I'm super grateful. It's another thing about homeschooling. You become really close to your kids because you're with them a lot. So my kids tell me everything. So I've never had the issue with him just because he's told me the struggles and things. So he's not that he's perfect. He's had struggles, but he'll come and tell me, and we've talked about it and figured it out. It's my daughter that I'm more concerned about. So that's why I got it. So she's just, a little sneakier, and, that's okay. She's 13. So just so that I can be a little bit more on top of it as a mom, and that's my right. And that's what we should be doing. Another thing I do is I say, give me your phone at random times. It's not even like a, hey, turn on your phone at night. They have to do that too. But it's like a, hey, just randomly, let me see your phone. And if they hesitate at all, I'm looking through everything. So, but they're the only two that have phones, are my two oldest, the teenagers. But I will look through everything. And if I see something I don't like, I talk to her about it, or talk to him about it, or who, whatever it is. And whether it's something they did or their friends did or said, I still want them to know, like, this isn't okay. And, as a Christian, we should stand up for these things, or, just kind of putting those little things. I mean, parents don't do that. It's laziness, to be honest. I know we're tired. I'm tired at the end of the day too. Sometimes I'm like looking at her phone in bed, but it's just one of the things that we should do as parents to protect our kids, because, everything that we see or do is getting into their brains, and every show they're watching, every YouTube thing, TikTok, whatever, all of those things are infiltrating our children's minds. And unfortunately, there's a lot more bad than there is good. And so,
right.
There's a couple, we also pay for PureFlix. So we have PureFlix. So of course the kids don't love the PureFlix movies as much because the acting isn't quite to par, but the stories are always good. They're in, so those things. So it'll be like family movie night and they're like, PureFlix, but one day they're probably going to look back and be like, I love that our parents really tried to guard our hearts and guard our minds and guarded what we put in. And I know it's not going to be perfect, and I can't protect them from everything in the world. I absolutely know that. But I can do the best I can. And it's at least better than if I were doing nothing. So.
Well, you said something that's another thing that I really want to, push. You said, I'm very close to my kids because I see them all the time.
Yes. I love that.
My kids were in public school up until second and third grade. And, here's what would happen when they came home from school. Hey, how's it going? What did you do today? Oh, it was fine. Nothing much.
The end.
The end.
Yeah.
Then they go do homework.
It's funny that you say that, because my youngest daughter is very much the same way as your son. Mom, I got to talk to you about something. Mom, I got to talk to you about something. And she's 21. She still does it today. You're not having the time with your children. You can't even really know your children when they're gone from your presence 7 hours or more a day.
Exactly.
You can't.
Yeah.
So you can stand by and say, yeah, I'm pretty sure I know my kid. But you have no idea what they do during the day. Yeah. If they come home, they're more than usually just going to give you a fluff of what the day was. They're not going to tell you all of the things that happened to them. You being with them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, really was the way it was meant to be. Am I wrong on that, or?
No, I think that was the way it was meant to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, just encouraging parents, you have the kids are yours. Parenting is a dirty, hard business, but it's a 24/7 job. It's not a 12 something 8 job. It's a 24/7 job.
Yeah.
So, I love the fact that you brought that up, and I hope that really sits on a lot of parents' hearts as they watch this video. What are you missing from your kids' lives, not seeing them 7 hours a day or more?
Exactly.
I remember when I was a teacher, and my 17-year-old now, I remember he was in daycare, and he's the only one that was ever in daycare of all of my kids, just for a couple of years. But I just remember them calling me and be like, oh, he just took his first steps. Oh, and I'm like, this is not okay, And so that was part of my motivation too, to figure out another way to do something, and teachers in Oklahoma don't get paid very much anyway. So I just wanted to be with my kids. And especially when they're young like that, I feel like you can figure out ways to make income, even as a mom, single or married. If you need additional income, you can figure out ways to do that and be with your babies. So
I'm switching gears again. So when your church started doing the homeschool co-op, how many were parents asking for this, or how many people, whose idea was it? How did that start?
I think it was the pastor's idea, as far as I know. I know that he'd been wanting to start a school for a while. And so he's very passionate about, he has the same morals and ideas that we do. And, he's very passionate about getting kids out of the public school systems because they're so broken, And so that was really the idea.
How would a mom approach her pastor to get him on board? Does it have to be the pastor? I mean, all of the questions. Should moms start talking amongst themselves and get a group maybe and go talk to their pastor?
I would say if there's if there's a need and there's more than a few moms or parents in the church that want this, I would say, get together and then go talk to the pastor or the elders, or I don't know who they would need to talk to. I'm sure it probably had to run by everybody, and everyone okay it and everything. But ultimately, I mean, I don't know if it's ultimately the pastor's decision. I guess it depends on the church. But man, I think there's a huge need. We got to, especially if there's an option for the kids to be there during the day all day, that would be great for a lot of working parents, and then you wouldn't have to worry about what they're being taught and what their minds are being infiltrated with. And, especially if it's your church, you're obviously going to line up with the beliefs and the things that are taught there. So.
Right.
Well, it's still important to point out that the parents
are the teachers,
right? Because it takes two.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The parents are the only people uniquely and specifically and ordained for that reason to be the parent to those children. So, the only thing, I'm super happy that your church is doing this and other churches are stepping up. My feeling is, we have a short lifespan, really. We have a short lifespan, and out of that short lifespan, the time that you spend with your kids is little bitty teeny tiny.
Yeah.
And if you can't take those 18 years out, or you can't take those whatever years out of your lifespan to be able to pay attention to those kids, I think your life isn't what it could be.
Right. Well, and another thing I think about when you just made me think of it when you said that, I just think about how just in general, our life is short, right? And we've got this tiny little bit of our life, and then we've got eternity over here. And this life is preparing for eternity. How important, what's most important to know in this life,
Excellent point.
Yes. Well, and, I think about the older you get, the more you think, wow, I wasted a lot of time not learning things that are eternally important.
Absolutely. Exactly.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And Dana's right. There is more than one way to do things. And that's, it's absolutely,
and success doesn't mean financial either. Success just means that you've got this life that you've built that you love, and you've got family that love you and that you love, and that, you know where you're going when you die. That's success, really, So.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And putting God first. He kind of insists on that.
Well, and then of course there's I want my kids to go out and do that Great Commission. And, more importantly than knowing things about educational stuff in school systems, I'd rather them know more about the Bible and be able to win souls for Christ,
Right.
So.
Yes.
Absolutely. And as Dana says too, success can mean different things to everybody. And I think, success is not necessarily just great grades, right?
Absolutely.
It's not just getting into college. It's not just, which is the Bible verse about love. If we have not love, then we're just clanging symbols. I mean, it's we're missing. It's like I said about beauty. We're missing the love component too.
Absolutely.
So,
Right. And we need to build confidence in our kids so that they are able to do whatever, and give them actually the critical thinking skills that they are so not getting in school these days.
Yeah.
Not all children, and not all, not all, but parents are uniquely equipped to build confidence in their own children, and that's just one of the things that parents can do best. And being away from them all day long is not a good way to build their confidence. So. Yep.
And also just not teaching them skill. A homeschool day could be like, hey, we're going to go change the oil today, and I'm going to teach you how to do that, So,
exactly.
Or cooking. Or cooking. Or sewing.
Yeah.
Or farming.
I just bought a bunch of felt the other day so I can teach them how to sew a pillow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Allison, it was very nice to have you today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for encouraging us to just be able to take ownership of our children. I know that sounds like a weird way to say that because we don't own our children. God owns our children. We're just raising them. But there is sadly we so often in society today are pawning our kids off onto a system and not taking responsibility for those children. And we can do it. It is doable. You and I have done it. Hundreds of thousands of other parents have done it. We just need to bring that light and that wisdom and that possibility, I think, into the world, and let's empower parents to just take that power from God to empower them to take care of their children.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It was so good to visit with you for a whole hour. I don't think we've gotten to talk this long in a while.
No, I know. Yeah, thank you so much. I